TvGrace presents the inexpressible words of God, the gospel of grace, on the lips of Jesus Christ man. Abba, Father.
In the like manner, always, right? We cannot get tired of this. You can get tired of anything less than this, because this is where we live. We move in Him, and this is what gives us life, the Word. The Word of grace is like food, right? Jesus one day said, not only of bread alone will man live, implying that there is another bread that is needed, which is the bread of the life of the Word of God. Well, let's go to a very important and consoling topic. The topic is the family of faith. So let's speak of the family of faith. Let's go now to see what the Apostle Paul. We greet worldwide all of those that are watching via internet. I love you very much, and I receive that you are there attentive with a notepad so you can write down these verses. Let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due time we shall reap if we do not faint. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to the family of faith. It says there, to the family of faith. It don't say the Lopez family or the Rodriguez family or the Jesus family. It is to say it is not human. The family of faith was created by God. Now there's no flesh. And I didn't say a last name because it is the family of faith. In that family, there is no skin color. There aren't whites, black, Chinese, olive color skin, because it is the family of faith. We're speaking about the spirit that has no color. That is the family of faith. So Hebrews chapter 12, if you want to look to your Bible, on account of those that watch me via internet that want to know if I speak with evidence. So in Hebrews chapter 12, let's look there quickly. There's something very important there of that family in verse 1. Well, it says, therefore we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. That cloud of witnesses where your father, your granddad that have gone on to be with the Lord that died. Hello. It calls it the cloud of witness because the family of faith that leaves the body no longer needs faith. So therefore they parted and they are in the cloud of witness. Witnesses means that they are watching the function here on earth of the human race. That is comforting. Having around about us, and it seems like they're not far away. They're not far because that is a spiritual world that, on account of the physical body or the physical eyes, which has a loose development, that's where the veils are, and we don't see it. Well, we are seated together with Christ in heavenly places, but it seems like the cloud of witness is close by. It seems like it's not up there, it's beside, around about us. So then it says here, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witness, say great cloud of witness because there are thousands of thousands. It says, let us set aside every weight and the sin which besets us, and let us run with endurance the race we have before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. One day he's going to consume the faith because it's no longer needed. When this corruptible is dressed of incorruptibility, why would it need faith if faith is? So he is the author of faith, and that's why he calls us the family of faith. Notice it doesn't say the family of the law. because that was flesh only. Here it says the family of faith, because the family of faith is a special people. It is a congregation of thousands of people. Look at what it says right there in chapter 12. It says, look at the amount. Verse 22 of chapter 12. But you have come to Mount Zion, to the city, say city, of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, the heavenly, not the one in Asia, to the countless thousands of angels. There are thousands of angels. That cloud of witness, there are thousands that look to the human behavior. That's why this world has not ended. That's why this world still exists, because the protection they plead in watching how the human race suffers, to the general assembly of the church of the firstborn, which are written in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, the just spirits made perfect, and to Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of the sprinkling that speaks better than that of Abel. So this is a very special family, the family of faith. And God, it's been the author and the finisher, the one who's created this faith for us to enjoy. So notice what it says. Let's look to chapter 4 of Philippians. To the Philippians, let's return a couple of books. In chapter 4, in verse 3, it says, yes, I ask you, my true companion, help these women, since they have contended by my side with the gospel, also with Clement and the rest of the co-workers, whose names are going to be written. No, whose names are in the book of life. So it is to say that this family of faith has a name. The only thing that they gave you a name when you took part in flesh. But those names are inscribed in the book of life. They are inscribed before you were born, because your spirit has a name. If we, the human race, when we have children, we give them a name. You don't leave him like that. And who is that? Oh, his name is No Name. Even calling him No Name, you gave him a name. His name is No Name. So God, everything we do here on earth is like a shadow of that took place in heaven. So God created spirits, and he created them in his image, and he gave them names and inscribed them in the book of life. And thousands and millions of angels he sent here to earth, and he planned. First, he gave them the law for thousands of years, but that didn't create families, because in the law there is no love. In the law is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. No one could produce a family because it produces wrath. So when Jesus came and created, the creator of faith came, and then he called them the family of faith. So we then discovered that we were angels. I was sharing with a woman when I was on my way back from Costa Rica. I got to the airport early, and I saw a lady that had an angel hanging on her chest. And I says to her, what a beautiful angel you have. And she says, oh, and I have his name. His name is Maciel. Well, I said, that is unknown to me, but my angel is called Gabriel, because I read it in the Word of God. She says, how interesting. You believe in the angels? And I said, woman, that's all I do. I work with angels. And you work with angels? That is your job? And I said, yes, I work with angels. What happens is that they're angels dressed in flesh. Don't you know that you are an angel? What happens is she hasn't gotten to the family of faith. She's in a stage of orphanhood. She's in a state of orphanhood because she lacks knowledge. Our job is to bring them to the congregation of the spirits made perfect so that they can participate in the family of faith. This is the greatest thing there is, the family of faith. And for information, and those that have not yet arrived, they have not yet reconciled, because they have already been forgiven. Even those that have not arrived to the family of faith worldwide to Growing in Grace Ministry, they have a reservation at the table. There's food, there are beds. Their fathers are waiting for them. They're my children. They made me the father of that family. The father needed a physical father for that family. I am waiting for them to arrive to feed them. Because imagine, you know how they are? Like the prodigal son. You remember that the father, well, one of the sons remained home. It seems like he wasn't of the family of faith, because he was bothered when his brother returned. And when the brother returned, they had food, they had a ring for him, and they dress him. And the father was awaiting for him, waiting for the day for him to return. And anybody he saw coming by the wayside, he says, perhaps that's him. And he would stay looking away to see if he arrives. So that's the way I am, awaiting for those that are in orphanhood. They are in orphanhood, misbehaving, and others in synagogues, in those nurseries. Yes, because if they are living by the law, listen, the family of faith has to be in faith and for faith, because if they are in the law, Galatians 5:4 says, you have become alienated from Christ. You who attempt to be justified by the law have fallen from grace. So if you are alienated from Christ, you are in a stage of orphanhood. All the Protestant churches all around the world, they're part of the family, but they haven't found their father. They are in a stage of orphanhood. Until you don't find this information that I am talking about here, you are an orphan. Well, how did you feel 15, 20 years in a church, Protestant church? You were an orphan because you didn't know, first of all, that you were a spirit dressed in flesh. Let's look at it here in Hebrews 2:14, because there are verses that are unknown for those that are in orphanhood. We know it already, but we have to read it here. For those that they gave a name before the foundation of the world, look at what verse 14 says. It says, for as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and what? Blood. So then before taking part in flesh and blood, they were what? Children. But they didn't have flesh and blood. What happens is that all of the angels that God sends, he calls them children, because in partaking of flesh and blood, yes, right now, an angel that never took part in flesh and blood remained an angel, but an angel that was sent to the womb of a mother, so then that angel must be called a child. It changes its position. It's like you were a son, you got married, you became a father, and you had children, now you became a grandfather, but you are the same. So an angel that takes part in flesh is no longer called an angel, it's called a child. So listen, and you know that those angels are sent. And it's interesting how God sent them. A woman asked me, says, but no, I was born in 1952. That's where I begun. God formed me completely. No, that's where God formed your embryo. But your spirit was formed thousands of years ago. But how did I get to my mother? So women, let's look to Isaiah 46, because everything has a foundation. Let's go to the Old Covenant, where Isaiah, the favorite prophet of the Apostle Paul, that's why he mentioned him so much in the New Covenant, chapter 46, look at how they come and arrive. Say, the family of faith. One day, Isaiah had to speak like this in verse 3. Listen to me, O house of Jacob, and all the remnant of the house of Israel. Are we all here? Yes. It says, who have been upheld by me from birth. Those that have been upheld from whom? From God. And how does he bring them? Through the womb. He places them in a womb. God has this math that I don't understand. He gathers a couple, they have their relationship, and suddenly that beginning, that embryo, it's formed. And now comes in angels that specialize and blows and sends a spirit. It brings them in the like manner in which he's done with Adam. What he did with Adam, he blew into him. He formed a doll because there wasn't a woman or a man to create it. So from the dust of the earth, he formed a doll. And how do I put the spirit there? What better than blowing? Spirit of life. And all of a sudden he became alive. Now we have women and men. Now he doesn't have to continue blowing. The blow has been done away with. There are many people still blowing out there. You don't have to blow anymore. So now notice what it says here. Listen to me, O house of Jacob, and all of the remnant of the house of Israel, who have been upheld by men, by me from birth, who have been carried from the womb. Those are the predestined and the elect, those that are carried. And they can be suffering and going in a jail and prison, but they're carried. And they can misbehave, but they are carried by the Lord, upheld. There are some that are not upheld by him, that there are an evil seed, or vessels of wrath prepared for destruction. But those that are upheld by him, notice what it says there, those that are upheld by me, from the womb, those that are carried from the womb, even to their old age, I am he, and even to their great hair, I will carry you. I have made and I will bear. Notice that he knows that he dressed you in flesh. Your grandfather that has misbehaved with you, that man, that woman, those parents, that governor, that those people that have made you suffer so much, God says, listen, I upheld and I carried. I was the one who made him. I was the one that caused that problem in his flesh. That's why he's misbehaved. That's why I support him. And what does it matter to you? That's why the family of faith is tremendous, because the family of faith are spirits. Say spirits. That everyone believes. When someone dies and they do a mass, they say that their spirit goes to a purgatory. At least they believe that they're spirits. The only thing, they don't understand the science that I teach, how they arrive, how God upholds them. There's ignorance. An orphan doesn't receive education. That's why we must bring him home, to give him to eat, put the ring on him, dress them, educate them so that they can respect what the family of faith is. Therefore, what has happened to you is something marvelous. You've arrived to your house. That's what happened to the prodigal son, that he returned home. So when the father saw him, he celebrated with the fatted calf. He killed the fatted calf. Those that have read the prodigal son's parable, because he was eating carob, the food of the pigs, but he realized and came to his senses. So the prodigal son says, man, I was so comfortable at dad's home. I was very comfortable, my bed, my pillow, my sheet, and I'm sleeping here with the pigs. And I used to have my food served to me very hot, and now I'm eating carob, pig food. He came to his senses and says, I'm returning home. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell my father, even if you treat me like a laborer, I am conformed. You don't have to give me anything. It's great to realize that you have misbehaved. I failed. I'm going back home. Perhaps he'll have mercy upon me. It's better than eating carrots here with the pigs. What he didn't imagine is that his father was awaiting him with a feast. Because the fathers are like that. I'm saying the true parents. The father that loves. So he was waiting for him with a big feast. The problem was the bandit that stood within the house. His brother immediately was bothered and said, wait a minute, what's going on here? And he began to speak against him and with those laborers in the house. I've been in this house for so long and I'm always here. I've never misbehaved. And my dad has never killed a fatted calf so I can enjoy it with my friends. So what happens is that when his brother returns smelling like a pig, imagine if he slept with pigs, what he brought along was a stink. Imagine. So they had to wash him down with a hose before entering. But notice what the problem was. The problem is that he was received with drums and cymbals, and the one that stood home was bothered. He was raged. So then, you know what he said? To the father, he went to the dad and said, why did you never kill the fatted calf for me? And this man that has wasted all of his inheritance that you gave him, and I'm here, I never misbehave, and you never given me anything to share with my friends. So then his father says, truly, you don't have communion with me. You don't understand my attitude and understand me because I don't have to give it to you. You could have taken it, killed it, and made a feast. But that's a type of the religious system. The religious ones are always, since I've done, I deserve. Since I've behaved, God behaves with me. But here it's different. With the family of faith, God is obligated to behave with you. You know why? Because he says, I was the one who did it. I am the problem that put you in that flesh. That's why he wants to communicate the gospel to us. Don't you see that when you know the gospel? God then says, now I am content because he was the one who put you into this flesh. This is the worst state of creation. Notice that God says that we know no one according to the flesh because that is useless. This is the worst state of creation. That's why we came here to be renewed. But when we reach the fullness of knowledge to his stature, God will have no alternative. He must dress the family of faith. We must be in faith. If you are in the law, don't comb yourself. You're not going. Don't get dressed. You're not going. Yes, it's necessary. Let's look, now that we've read that, let's look to Hebrew. Let's go back to Hebrew because Hebrew is the book of the angels, the book of the family of faith, one of the most precious books. In Hebrews chapter 12, look at what it says. In verse 2, let's go back to verse 2, 12:2. Those that take notes. We are reviewing the building, the classes we have given, but we are reviewing them to consider what the true family of faith is. That's why Paul says to do good, mainly to the family of faith, mostly to those. Don't you see that when you do well to the family of faith, you don't lose anything. You are investing. I've invested for many years. Everything that comes to my hands, I pass it on to the family of faith. If Paul says it, mostly to those in the family of faith, because the angels are observing. The angels are the ones that have parted from the body. They are a great cloud of witnesses. So when they see that we're not cheap and that we're not just saving, and well, it hurts the necessity of others. So we serve others, and the angels see your intentions and they supply your needs. They keep you in health. The children will never lack. You'll never lack for rent. It takes some time, a discipline, but it'll come. So look at what it says here. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. Why was it a joy? Because he was rescuing the spirits that he himself put in this infernal of flesh. It was a joy to die. That's why Peter said, my good master, don't go to the cross. Big head, depart from me, Satan. The family of faith will then remain in that state of flesh. He endured, and with joy he gave his life. No one takes my life. I lay it down because I know what I am here to do. I am manifesting the best business transaction. I am destroying the power of death. Verse 3 says, consider him who endures such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest you be weary and faint in your faith. For you have not yet resisted bloodshed, striving against sin. Have you forgotten the exhortation which speaks to you as to sons? My son, don't despise the chastising of the Lord. Don't be discouraged when you are disciplined by the Lord, because the Lord whom he loves, he disciplines. If you endure discipline, God deals with you as with son. For what son is that the father doesn't discipline? But if you are left without discipline, of which you have become partakers, then are you bastards and not sons. That's why you are in this discipline, because you're not a bastard. You are a son. Listen, those that don't receive the instructions of this gospel that I and you preach are bastards. Listen, you leave them for a little bit, a year, 2 years, but if they continue to hear and continue to reject, it's that they're not sons. Because you need these instructions that I am speaking about. You need them, because this is the discipline. Discipline isn't that he hurts you. It's to orient you, to give you orientation and tell you what you are, who you are. How does a father discipline his son? With a rod in his hand? No, he first speaks to him. I want this. I want to help you with that. So the child begins to see the goals. That's the discipline. Discipline isn't to be whipping. A father that knows how to discipline doesn't yell at his children. He speaks to them. When I was educated with this word of grace, I never hit my kids. I've never hit my kids, nor did I scold at them. I always discipline by teaching, because a father that yells is because he doubts his authority. When you scream, listen, you bandit, you're no good for nothing, then the child says, forget about this. I'm never going to obey him. And he rebels against you. You call him aside and you say, listen, you're listening to me? This is like this, like that, and like this. One more, and I'm not going to support it. I'm going to take the TV from you for 2 weeks. And you're not going to the movies with your friends on Saturdays. Don't discipline by scolding. No. A week without watching TV, that works. And to miss out on Saturday to go out and watch a movie with the friends, brother. So then instead of hitting him, discipline. How does the God do it with you? God prives you of things. Don't you know that? Oof. God prives you of many things. He says this sheep is jumping around too much, and he disciplines you. And then suddenly you perhaps could have prospered 6 months before, but he allows for you to lack. The young man that's out there that you discipline. If you've yelled at him and you've hit him and you've mistreated him, well, don't fault him. But if you've treated him well and he continues to do wrong, well, God has a way to deal with them. But the only thing, God does it with love, because the perfect bond of love, the perfect bond is love, right? But God deals with his children. And we've all been partakers of that discipline. God deals with the elderly, those that have black hair, blonde hair, green hair. He deals with his children, but he doesn't abandon them. Everyone brought into the womb, they are never abandoned. God deals with them. How many have felt that God has attended them? Right? I've never felt that God has abandoned me. I've always seen his love. But you have to understand the spirit, and the language of God is written in 14 epistles. So if you learn the language, 14 epistles. A novel takes a lot longer to read. I see them in airplanes reading a novel that thick. And sometimes they have a marker and they're like 3/4 through the book. I've never reading a novel. It is the gospel, and I've delayed in reading it because I would read a chapter, and when I would go to the second chapter, I would forget the first. I didn't have a good concentration. So imagine to read a novel of, Robin Hood that thick. The 14 books I'm speaking about, if you read them, those that know how to read quickly, that have that ability, that are talented, you read those 14 epistles in a half hour. Imagine that some have just 5 chapters. In a blink of an eye, Titus, 1 page, Philemon, 1 page, 2 books, 2 chapters. But those 14 epistles, that's the mind of Christ. That's why Paul says we have the mind of Christ. If you read the 14 epistles and you record them, you learn them. If you write them down, you learn them. Don't you see when I always quote the scriptures? Look to Philemon, look to Hebrew. I make notes because you begin to exercise the senses, the thoughts, and you form the mind of Christ here. They can take the Bible from you, but you have it recorded here. There are people that think that carrying all around the airport, they think, oh, he's really holy. No, it's not necessary to have it under your arm. Important is to have it here. This doesn't give you good luck to have it under your arm. You think I dare walk with a Bible under my arm at the airport? I am ashamed of that book. Oh, Pastor, what you've said, because there's such a bad example, and I don't want to be confused with one of them. I prefer not to walk with one. Imagine those evangelists that are beggars. They're always begging on television. They're always criticizing, sending people to hell. They don't know who the children of God are. How is a person that's been written in the book of life is going to lose their salvation? They think that the salvation can be lost. In what head does that fit into? That God sends his children here to earth and now the devil takes them and destroys them. That's an irresponsible father. If God is like that, I don't know God. The God I know is a responsible God, that if he sends his son somewhere, he guarantees his inheritance. Though he misbehaves, he disciplines him, he scourges him. But how is he going to be lost? My sheep, he says, I call them, I know them, and they follow me, and I have them in my hand, and no one can snatch them from my hand. How is he going to be lost? Listen, that is why I tell you that corrupt Protestant son that are always talking, Protestant system that's always talking about you're going to be lost, you're going to hell. You think they are truly teachers? Those are wolves dressed as sheep, shearing the sheep instead of combing their wool that they're full of so much filth from the world, instead of bringing them to this beauty parlor here where you can comb their wool. Listen, I don't know how those people there call themselves Christian Church. Christian Church, Mount Zion, the Celestial Jerusalem, they have 1,000 names. Oh, and don't speak to them about grace, because grace causes fear, because grace is the character of God. Don't you see that this ministry is called Growing in Grace? It's not called You Grew in Grace. No, because this goes like this. It is a spiral growth. It doesn't finish. And religion is square. Oh, you learn the norms, the commandments, and you are frozen there. No growth. There's no life there. What there is judgment. People pointing at each other, criticism. You remove this one to establish yourself. In a family, you can't live like that. And if this is the family of faith, they must be family rules. Don't you think? Not here. There, you have a father that disciplines you, that corrects you. Notice that right now I'm playing his role in the aspect as how he disciplines you and corrects you. In what way? He instructs you. He teaches you. He tells you where you come from, where you are, and where you're heading to. Jacob saw them in a dream. He saw the angels come down in a ladder and return to heaven. Everything that comes from heaven, doesn't stay on the earth. They must return. The ticket, it's a return ticket. From heaven, they don't allow you to come to earth without a return ticket. There are countries that you cannot travel to another country with just a one-way ticket. You must have a return ticket. You can say, oh, no, they're going to pay the ticket when I get over there. No, if you don't have a return ticket, you don't get on the plane. And in first class and well cared for. And in this trip, there are no plane crashes, nor do plane falls. They're ovnis. You see them out there, and people sometimes spot them and they think they're flying saucers. They're angels that are traveling in vehicles that are called triumphant. Remember? Yes, Paul says that he always takes us triumphant. Well, that must be the brand of those vehicles. Brother. Say the family of faith.